There was definitely a lot going on Saturday, college football across the board, across the country. I got to watch something pretty cool in Wichita, Kansas as well. So you know what? Daylight saving time ending wasn't that much of a problem for me. It gave me a little bit more time to sleep and get ready for tonight as well. Welcome into Midwest Sportsnet and college football this week. I'm Joey McWilliams, and tonight is a privilege to be joined by Owen Hnatyshyn, who is on the broadcast with me as well. And Owen, along with Jonathan Mathis, broadcasting Indiana Wesleyan games this year. And I have to tell you, I'm sure that it's a privilege to get to do that. These guys are playing another solid season. And you come away with a victory, 56-48 the final over Taylor. And wow, what a win there. Just give me your overview of the game to get things started. Welcome into the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Joey. So it was funny. I have a group chat with Joel Reneker, who's the assistant SID, and then David Kolk, who's the SID, and then Jonathan, who's our play-by-play, as you said. And the four of us have a group chat, and I texted them. I said on the broadcast two Saturdays ago, I had said that it wouldn't surprise me if the combined score exceeds 60. Well, it exceeded 60 after the first half, so I was definitely right on that. But it was crazy. It's my favorite thing about Indiana Wesleyan. Just they're such a young program, and so it feels like almost every single year there's some sort of record being broken. It's funny because Arjun Lothe's broken his record and someone else's record in single game passing. I think three or four times now. It's pretty funny. So.
Yeah, he has been putting up some numbers. By the way, we have some a Bet the Barn segment we have here on the broadcast over the course of the week, and we do some different lines. Since Vegas doesn't do NAI lines, we create our own right here. We have the over-under on that game at 71.5. Yeah, they nearly hit that by the half. So definitely the guys who took the over on that one got it right. Spoiler alert, I did not, and I don't know what I was thinking at that point in time. Anyway, you go into it and it's going to be a dichotomy of styles because the Wildcats are going to throw the ball and Taylor's going to run the ball, and it pretty much played out in front of you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was crazy. I told you before we went on. I said I got to pull up the stats because it was things I couldn't memorize. It was pretty crazy. I mean, Taylor running the triple option, and then every so often they just run just a basic option. But I mean, they netted 376. But their yards to gain was 415, which is crazy. And then for Indiana Wesleyan, their passing was just up to par as they normally do. 435 compared to Taylor's 203, which for a triple option offense, 203 passing yards is pretty up there. But I mean, the game definitely lived up to the expectations that I think I had going into it with. I think Taylor's going to run all over the place, and I think Indiana Wesleyan's going to pass all over the place. So,
both teams passed 550 yards combined. Each one individually passed 550 yards combined. So you have more than 1,100 yards for both of them. And you talked about Lothe and what he has done. Of course, 24 of 33 passing in those 435 that he had. You talked about the records, but I mean, how comfortable does he look in that spot coming in this year? And really, I mean, it's been his team this year.
Yeah, I made a note in the broadcast 2 weeks ago to Jonathan. I had told him that game, it was against Defiance. It was a homecoming game. I had told him, I said, I did some deep diving and look at Lothe's stats, and he had, I think it was 1,900 or 800 something passing yards in the first 4 games. And in the last 3, he had just like 70 or 60 yards shy of matching that in his first 4 games. And it's been really cool to see him settle down in his role. He only got 1 start last year against Olivet when the Indiana Wesleyan quarterback was injured last year in 1 game. So this being his first full season, I thought he looked good in the first few games of the year, but I could definitely, there was some certain times where he was making the first year starter mistakes, mainly it was more so just focusing on his initial first read. And I thought he's done a really good job of settling in the pocket and really scanning the field really well and not being afraid to dump it off to his running back or tight end, whoever his safety route is. I've just been really, really happy. And I sent in that same group chat, I sent another text message and I said, it's been really cool to see the way Arge is what they call him, Arge settled down as the year has gone. It's been pretty cool.
And that's something that's only a benefit, even that much more, as the Wildcats season could be heading toward the postseason once again. They a couple more games ahead of them, and they still need to play well in those games. But the opportunity is there for them. They're definitely in a position. They're in control of their own destiny. That much is certain. On the defensive side of the ball, with Taylor running that triple option like you talked about, there are opportunities because that the clock, as much as a passing game gives you more opportunities, you would think a running game would slow it down, but clearly there were a lot of plays that were run on both sides of the ball. And you look on defense, Brock Thomason, 17 tackles, Mint Solana, 14 tackles, Tyler Sylvester, 13 tackles. You have 3 players with at least 13 tackles, and there are tackles for loss in there. Solana with 2 interceptions on top of that. Defense played pretty well in a game in which 48 points were put up from the other side.
Yeah, I think with Indiana Wesleyan's defense, it's been one of those things where they're new-ish. There's a lot of guys that Jonathan and I were used to, but they were more so the rotational guys. And so, we saw some of these guys, but we didn't really get to see them fully. And just kind of the same way I was talking about with Lothe, they've really just sort of come into their own. Obviously, it's triple. I'm from Louisiana, as you can tell, Saints hat on. I'm from the Southeast. Southeast Louisiana. There wasn't I faced one school that ran the triple option. It was John Curtis Christian. It's a powerhouse down in Louisiana. And they're the only team that ran a veer or a triple option. They ran the veer. So I never got to see it. And then when I came here to small town Indiana, all these high schools run it up here. I think besides maybe Marion High School in Mississinawa in Grant County. And so it's been really cool to kind of see what I see in small town Indiana get moves up to the college level with Taylor. The coaching staff over there has done great things, but you look at the stat sheet, and the defense for Indiana Wesleyan's done some really good things in this game. I just think it's stopping a triple option offense is pretty dang hard to do, especially when there's it's in the name triple option. There's 3 possible guys that run the football, and you got to count for every single one of them. And every so often, one guy could slip through, and that's where they got their big chunk is. So.
Well, I was in Wichita, Kansas on Saturday, and I hope that you get a chance to see friends if you want to see it one more time. But, Indiana Wesleyan may not want to see that in the postseason if they're playing along. I want to mention one more player really quickly, Josh Clifton, who was perfect on extra points. 8 for 8 points after. Now the all-time leading scorer at Indiana Wesleyan, and he's just, come in and done his job. But props to him for making that mark and keeping his name in the record book.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I'm a 4-year graduate of Indiana Wesleyan, and so I got to play with Ben Von Gutten, who was the kicker for Indiana Wesleyan. He was the previous record holder, and Ben Von Gutten's actually Josh's coach on the team. And so it was a really cool moment between the two of them. You got to see the two of those guys kind of share a moment and on the sideline and stuff like that. Josh beating his record. But you say come into his own. I think he's been one guy you as a coach and obviously as an alumni and a broadcaster, you love the guarantees. And Josh Clifton putting the ball through the upright is a guaranteed. He's done a really, really good job in his career, and he's got a long way before things are said and done. So it'll be pretty cool to see the final number when he graduates.
And by the way, those points after were no guarantee throughout the NAI. We'll talk about that a little bit more this Saturday. There were some times when that just wasn't the case. You talked about the running game. Nathan Parker, of course, put up 247 rushing yards for Taylor. Let's look really quickly. I want to make good use of your time as we wrap it up. And a shout out to Robert, to Charles, to Dave, already in the chat. Hey, if you're watching us live, let us know in the chat from where you're watching and what team that you are cheering for. No question about the guys who are already in the chat, but especially if you're new, let us know who you're cheering for and from where you're watching tonight. Lawrence Tech next week and Siena Heights the week after that. Now, both Indiana Wesleyan and Siena Heights undefeated in divisional play. That could come down to a game for an automatic qualifying bid or a playoff spot, afterward as well, or other than the automatic qualifying bid. Talk about that, the rest of the season then, and how is Indiana Wesleyan? I mean, they're seem to be just rolling on along.
Yeah, so like you said, Lawrence Tech, that'll be our final guaranteed game. I feel like I'm saying that a few times. Our final guaranteed game of the year. Obviously, because you never know what could shake out. The hope as a broadcaster is that Indiana Wesleyan has a home game for the first round of the postseason. But Lawrence Tech, I feel like, is one of those games that Indiana Wesleyan should definitely win. It's senior day for them. I don't, from my knowledge, I don't think Indiana Wesleyan's ever lost on a senior day. They've only lost, I think, 2 games at home since after the COVID year. So it's going to be pretty tough for Lawrence Tech to walk into the den of nightmares, as Jonathan has nicknamed Wildcat Stadium. But it'd be pretty tough for Lawrence Tech to beat them. It's one of those games, though. It's a trap game. You're focused on Siena Heights. You're really focused on Siena Heights with, obviously, like you said, both teams undefeated. It is definitely a trap game. There's a lot of other things weighing on it with senior night or senior day. But it'll be interesting to see. I think Lawrence Tech could give them a good run for their money. But then, Siena Heights in their final season as a program, they have quite literally nothing to lose. Exactly. They are setting the precedence for the history books rather than for the next guys to come. So, I mean, that's a game that if Indiana Wesleyan, that's going to be a tough wall they're going to run into. Obviously, graduate and broadcaster bias. I like to say the Wildcats are going to win. But that's absolutely one of those games that could shake down very similar to Taylor. Siena Heights historically has had an unbelievable defense that just has ran through the MSFA East the past couple of years. Their offense has really killed them. So it'll be really interesting to see what the Wildcats look like going up against a tough defense that last game of the year.
Okay, grad and broadcaster, you're totally in line to have a bias here on the channel. That's fine. I'll do my best to be neutral, but you're totally in line to have that bias. All right, really quickly, they want to listen to you and to Jonathan. Where do they find you?
So you can find us on the Indiana Wesleyan IWWildcats.com, and you just go to the live streams. I am the play-by-play voice of the Lady Wildcats for Indiana Wesleyan, and then I'll hop on a couple of the men's games as well, doing play-by-play. And then I'm the color commentator for the men's games. So just swing on over to IWWildcats.com and just go to the live stream. So.
All right, we look forward to it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this season turns out for you all. But thank you, Owen, very much for being with us tonight here on College Football this week, and success to the Wildcats the rest of the season, however long that lasts.
Thank you, Joey. Appreciate you. Pleasure.
All right, we're going to let Owen go and enjoy his Sunday night. Hopefully he had a little bit more rest last night as well, because we all got that extra hour. Daylight saving time has come to an end. Shout out to Matt and to Leo, and Matt hates to admit that Joey may be right about Dakota State. You know what, Matt, I would say this sometimes, and I'll get right on over. Let me see if I can bring that up there. Sometimes Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet, okay, lots of times Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet does not like to admit that Joey may be right, but that's okay. Hey, Leo, thanks for being on tonight from Western Nebraska. I didn't know that. I don't think I did. Anyway, glad you're on with us tonight. Charles is watching us from Kansas City, but he's going to be heading back to Florida early in the morning. So, Charles, we'll try to get through it, and we do want to get to Graceland and Grandview and a little bit to talk about there, not as much as what we thought maybe this summer we might be talking about. Shout out to Dave and, of course, Roll Stangs, and then a shout out to Robert tonight, who is watching. Really quickly, before we go any farther, I'm going to say this. I've thought about this a lot over the course of the last 2 weeks or so, and love to do a meetup at some point in time. I know that at the national championship game, I'm going to get a chance to see some of the guys that I've had on the channel here and been talking with off and on over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, and going down to Fort Worth area for the national championship game. I'd love to get to meet up and see, some of the guys that you all who are part of the community here on Midwest Sports Net. There has to be a way to do it. Just think about it someday. But coming back from Wichita, I did get the chance to meet Robert this week. Got to meet him this morning. It's a Sunday morning, and got to stop by where he's pastoring, and so it was great to get to meet somebody face to face. Robert, privileged to get to stop by your church and get to see you and meet you face to face, meet your family. Absolutely beautiful family, and look forward to getting to visit with you more here on the channel. All right, lots more, and really quickly, Charles Brooks has seen the future, and he's happy about it. We'll get to Graceland in just a moment. So let's get started talking about all these games. Of course, Indiana Wesleyan, we just got through there. Let's go from one side of the country to the other, kind of stay in conference. We'll talk about the games, briefly hit those. We're going to talk a little bit tonight. Now, I know we've been doing it on the midweek show, but tonight we're going to update things and talk about those teams who are in the driver's seat. And by that, I mean who are in control of their destiny for an opportunity to be a part of the NAI Football Championship Series playoff playoff field, whatever it is right there, who are in control of their own destiny. We'll talk about that, and those teams who have that, if they win out, there's nothing anyone else can do about it. So we'll talk about those. And you know what? A couple of guys won the Bet the Barn segment. Who were they? Well, we'll mention those a little bit later on as well. So stick around for that. Southeastern, undefeated in conference play, continuing to just run through the Sun Conference. The Southeastern Fire, undefeated. They're 3-1 in conference play. They're going to take on an undefeated Kaiser team here in just a little bit. But Southeastern 42-9 over Warner. They're undefeated against Warner. How about that one? 11-0 all-time against the Royals with a 42-9 victory. Nate Michael, 9 of 17 passing, 134 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Trey McClellan had 4 catches for the Fire, 78 yards. 2 of those were for touchdowns. Next week, Southeastern on the road at Kaiser. By the way, the Seahawks are undefeated in conference play, 8-0. All-time undefeated in conference play, have never lost in the Sun Conference. Now, they've lost to Southeastern a couple of times. The only team really that they've lost to, I think, more than once in conference play, but that was before the Sun Conference was sponsoring football. That was back in the Mid-South, part of the Sun Division, but now the Sun Conference is sponsoring that, and Kaiser hasn't lost a game and continue not to be that way. 42-7, scoring the first 42 points against Ave Maria. Kaiser now 7-1 all-time in this series, 530 yards of total offense, and fairly balanced, too. 275 yards passing, 255 rushing. Held the ball 39 minutes of the game. Shea Spencer, 21 of 25 passing. Yes, 84% completion there for Shea Spencer. 256 passing yards. Threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown as well. Jaden Miller had 3 rushing touchdowns, too. He had 13 carries for 104 yards. Kaiser with the win, taking on Southeastern next week. We'll talk about that more later. Florida Memorial at 5-3 now with the 42-19 victory over Weber International. Tedrick Wilcox, the freshman, is stepping up and making some noise. How about this? He threw the ball only 8 times, completed 7 of those passes, 88% completion there, 146 yards, a couple of touchdowns, no picks, and Gerard Sims continues to light things up. 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown as well. St. Thomas all over Thomas, 66-13. The Nighthawks have yet to win a game in 2025. St. Thomas now 5-3. Isaiah Lopez, 13 carries for 116 yards and a pair of rushing touchdowns. To the Appalachian, where Reinhardt had a 56-0 beatdown of Rio Grande. Reinhardt at 5-3 now. First meeting between these two schools. And Reinhardt, 14 different players carried the ball at least once, and they knew that probably they were going to get a win. It was a favorable matchup for the Eagles over the Red Storm in this one. Tyrus McKee ran back the opening kickoff, 89 yards. He also had a 35-yard touchdown run in the game. Kentucky Christian now 5-4, 28-21 over Bluefield, 15th meeting between the schools, and Kentucky Christian now has the edge in the series, 8-7 in those 15 meetings. Jackson Wasick continuing to put up good numbers for the Knights. 21 of 32 passing, 307 passing yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Also carried the ball 18 times for 75 yards and had a rushing touchdown too. Javion Martin, 106 receiving yards. Jalen Briscoe, 105 receiving yards. But Bluefield had a pair of 100-yard receivers as well. Jordan Edwards, 118 receiving yards. Jamonte Chavis, 100 yards receiving. And I'll start with Jays. That's very similar to our household with all the Jays around here. Ethan Cash for Bluefield, 16 of 33 passing, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick on the day. But it was a 7-point victory for Kentucky Christian, now 5-4. Kentucky Christian next week taking on Pikeville. The Bears now 3-5 after a 41-14 victory over Union Commonwealth. Xavier Malone, we'll talk about him in the Bet the Barn segment, and wow, did he light things up. 43 of 57 passing, 437 passing yards, 6 passing touchdowns, threw 1 interception, and guess what? That went for a score as well. It was a pick 6. He also had 5 carries for 21 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Malone was responsible for points on both sides of the board and lit things up. 7 touchdowns for the Bears on the day. Brandon Newton had 10 catches for 150 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns, half of that number that Malone threw. Big game next week, Kentucky Christian in Pikeville. Let's go to the Mid-South, the first of 3 overtime games on the day. Cumberland 40, Cumberland's 37, final in overtime. The Patriots made it a game in the fourth quarter, trailing 34-13, but 3 Drew Gregg touchdown passes later. It was tied, went into overtime. The Phoenix get the win. Jake Parker, 8 of 13 passing for 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. That includes the game-winning 24-yard touchdown pass in overtime to Isaiah O'Neal. And Jacob Cornejo, by the way, on the day, 21 carries, 187 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Campbellsville is 7-1, gets back on the winning side with a 62-9 victory over Faulkner. This series is now tied 6-6 all-time in 12 meetings. Jet Engel, 20 of 31 passing for 241 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And Trey Bass, that's the duo we've been talking about for Campbellsville all season long. 8 carries for 96 yards and even 12 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns. And there were 2 defensive scores in 62 seconds for Campbellsville in this one. A fumble recovery returned for a touchdown. And Faulkner gets the ball back, throws a pick 6, and 6 more points on the board for the Tigers. 62-9, the final. The Tigers now 7-1. Bethel gets the win in overtime over Georgetown. The Wildcats are now 4-3, but more importantly, just 1 loss in conference play. We'll get to that later on. Georgetown now with 2 losses, 26-23, the final there at Bethel in this one. To the Mid-States Football Association. We just talked about this game. Indiana Wesleyan now 7-2, 56-48, 104 points put on the board. If you took the over in this one, you definitely got it right. Spoiler alert, I did not. What was I thinking? 7-1 all time in this series are the Wildcats as Taylor won the first meeting between the two, 43-31. That was all the way back in 2018, and the Trojans are yet to pick up a win in this series since that time. Indiana Wesleyan was up 46-31 in the third quarter. That proved to be just enough in the game. Taylor had 579 yards of total offense. Indiana Wesleyan, 565 yards of total offense. Arge, as Owen put it just a little bit earlier, Arge and Lothe, 24-33 passing, 435 passing yards, 5 touchdowns through a pick as well. Cameron Morrison for the Wildcats, 20 carries for 101 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Alex Ambergi, and Damon Hockett both split time at quarterback. They combined to throw 2 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions on the day. It is a rushing attack for Coach Mingo's squad, and Nathan Parker proved that. 29 carries, 247 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Lawrence Tech made sure that Madonna still has just 1 win on the season. The Blue Devils are now 2-6 with a 44-6 victory over Madonna. Lawrence Tech now 5-0 on the season. Ryan Schuster continuing to put up pretty good numbers for the Blue Devils, 23 of 34 passing, 304 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Keon Sanders, 23 carries for 152 yards on the ground for the Blue Devils, 3 rushing touchdowns. And how about Corey Pickman with a 54-yard pick 6 as well? The Blue Devils now with 2 wins on the season. Siena Heights, 5-3. More importantly, for Siena Heights, no losses in divisional play, 3-0 in the Mideast with the victory over Defiance. Braylon Himmeline, 19 of 24 passing, 269 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And Credell Prather, 8 catches for 108 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. To the Midwest, where Olivet Nazarene gets the win, comes up short against St. Francis in this one, 30-22. Joshua Kolka, 25 of 39, passing 288 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And Azariah Wallace, 17 carries, 136 yards for St. Francis. He had a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. For Olivet Nazarene, Christian Dew Reed played well, 16 of 28 passing, 288 yards, 1 touchdown through a pick. Jack Miller, 10 of 20 passing as well. He came in for Dew Reed, 193 yards through the air, 1 touchdown and a pick as well. Now, Dew Reed had gone out of a game late a couple of games ago, and I believe it was cramps is something they'd talked about at the time, and they're in the fourth quarter about Jack Miller steps in again. The two combined to throw for more than 470 yards through the air, but again, only 2 touchdowns, 2 picks on the day. The Haiva and Nakoa Kahana Travis, freshman running backs from Hawaii, continue to get some time for Olivet Nazarene. I want you to remember those names. Kahana Travis, the twins, the freshmen from Hawaii. They had, I think, a combined 9 carries on the day. Marion's 8-1 now, 28-11, the win over St. Francis of Illinois. Marion 10-1 all-time in this series. And the Knights got a touchdown, went up 14-3, but Carl Bew ran back the kickoff 97 yards, and the Saints got a 2-point conversion. It was a 14-11 game at that point, but 2 of Keegan LaBelle's 3 touchdown carries for the day came after that to secure the win for Marion. Again, now 8-1. And St. Xavier is 6-3 with a 50-31 win at Judson. The Cougars 5-0 all time in this series. Dominic D'Ambrosio, 15 of 30, 15% passing, 286 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also had 7 carries and a rushing touchdown as well. To the Hart Conference, where Grandview remains undefeated as the number 1 team in the country, 8-0 now with a 21-10 victory over Graceland. Not as many points as you might think to put on the board. Grandview now 13-0 all-time in the series. And we'll slow down there just for a little bit because Charles not only said that he's seen the future and that he's happy with what he's seen, but you want to go on record on this one? You want to go on the record? Charles, you're welcome to go on the record. Let's go back to something you said just a little bit earlier there, and I think this is the one that is up there. Got away from the granddaughter's birthday party. I chose the wrong one, Charles. Here we go. Graceland did a great job staying with Grandview and held them scoreless in the second half. And that's been a thing for Grandview in recent games. It's not been the dominating performances that we saw last year. And that's not to take away from Grandview. Again, the number 1 team in the country, defending national champions on top of that. This was a game we talked about in the summer that if Grandview and Graceland both came in with full complements and that everyone was strong and everyone was healthy, this was a game we were looking for. And that was the caveat that I had mentioned at the time, that both teams need to be at full strength. And I don't think both teams were at full strength. Now, whether or not Grandview was, Graceland definitely not at full strength, and they've made some changes and some different things along the way. So let's go ahead and say, going on record, watching Grandview live. Here we go. Charles puts on record right here, and we put it on the screen. If Friends and Grandview play again in the playoffs, Friends is going to win. All right, Charles, I appreciate you going on record, Charles. Way to go there. Okay, and let's see. Tool Envy, by the way, thanks for chiming in. Nice to see your name up there as well. Tool Envy. Cold, wet, and nasty Huntsman Field Saturday. 2 teams do not like each other. I think that is, that's a definite statement. I've noticed that in the last 3 games. Score was tighter than a fan would like, but outside of turnovers, Grandview did as they wished. All right, Tool Envy taking the other side there, Charles. So he says that they did, other than the turnovers. That was a big deal in that game as well. So, but again, Charles on record here on College Football this week talking about that, if that is a matchup. I would, if that winds up being a matchup, by the way, guys, I don't think it would happen in the second round. I think you're looking at this well on down the line if that is the case. So there we go. And Charles, by the way, if you spread the ball, things will be different. But giving a salute to Tool Envy on that one. So, yeah, I give the salute to Tool Envy as well. Thanks for showing up tonight. Glad to see your name there in the comments as well. All right. Where were we? We were in the Hart Conference, and Grandview had won its 68th consecutive regular season game. Isaiah Toki, 2 catches for 76 yards, That's all he needed. They were both touchdown catches. And by the way, one other thing, too, Gerald Monroe shows up in the stat line here. Gerald Monroe, we know probably, if not the top player in the NAIA coming in to this season. I know there have been some other players that have stepped up and made a lot of noise. Monroe hasn't made as much noise this season. This is only the second game in the last 4 weeks that he has numbers, but a pretty good game. 8 catches, 70 yards, one of those for a touchdown, the lone Graceland touchdown in this game. So it's nice to see Monroe's name come back up once again. All right. And this is the phrase that's gone around for Friends this year. Friends is a problem. Guys, I can attest to that, having been in Wichita on Saturday, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. William Penn, 42, Peru State, 21. Peru State's 4-5, and I think that's it. William Penn stopped a 7-game slide in this series, by the way, with this victory, doubling up on the Bobcats. Sterling Ramsey, the second quarterback, is having a stellar senior year. By the way, plays high school ball in the state of Oklahoma. 12 for 22 passing, 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Destin Loring, no surprise, 24 carries, 40 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, had 4 catches as well. Peru State, I'm going to give this number, and I'm not beating down on the Bobcats with this number, but this is why I believe this. If there were a stat that you say this is it, this confirms it, this is why your record is what it is. This is the stat as to why Peru State's record is 4-5, 500 and not more than it is. 3 touchdowns, 3 turnovers, and the ratio there just continues to grow. 2 interceptions and a fumble that was lost. So. That's the tough thing for Peru State. So the Bobcats, you hang on to the ball, and it's a totally different season. Seriously, it's a totally different season if that's the case. Culver Stockton with a 60-43 win over Central Methodist, another game that topped 100 points in total. 5-4 Central, or Culver. Let me stop it. Culver Stockton's now 5-4 on the season. Central Methodist 2-7. The Wildcats took the lead at the end of the first half, 30-29. And then owned the third quarter, scoring 10, just did not look back. Liam Thornton, 20 of 30 passing for the Wildcats, 368 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 interceptions as well, and both of them led to scores for Central Methodist to keep it close. He also had 11 carries for 66 yards and a couple of rushing touchdowns, so a solid game for Liam Thornton. Didn't quite make it into our top 5 performances, although that is a pretty good number right there. Caden Thomas had 8 tackles to lead the team, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a 58-yard pick 6 on the day for Culver Stockton. So there you go. St. Ambrose, 45. Clark, 20. The Fighting Bees are now 4-5. Alec Ponder continues to have a good season. He's a name. Remember Alec Ponder's name when you look back on this season because he's had a good year, just hasn't been able to get the team over the hump early on in the season, but the Fighting Bees are winning some games now. 16 for 25 passing, 323 yards through the air, 68% completion, 4 touchdowns, did not throw a pick. Cameron Bonsack, 4 catches for 148 yards. That was a common number there. Zaire Wilcox, 23 carries for 148 yards as well. 3 touchdowns between the two of them. We continue in the Heart, looking at the South right now, and Baker continues to roll after having lost its first 3 games. The Wildcats now have won 5 consecutive and have put themselves in a position for a playoff spot. We'll be talking about those automatic qualifying bids here in just a moment, but Baker is definitely in the driver's seat in the Heart South right now. And I know for Benedictine, that may be tough to hear just a little bit, but work with me on this one for just a moment. Benedictine also in that driver's seat as well. I think there's room for both of them, but we'll talk about why Baker's is a little bit different, at least coming into next week. Truman Julesgaard, 19 of 25 passing, 76% through the air, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. That's his 3rd best percentage of the season. Julesgaard, again, just continues to get better as the season goes on, and that is nothing but good for the Wildcats. Will he be able to play in the postseason? And if the Wildcats make the postseason, I'm sure they want to have him because they didn't get him last year, and it was a tough loss against that Pikeville squad. Gabe Martin, 14 carries, 73 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns for Baker. Eric Avery had 4 catches, 2 of them for touchdowns. 85 yards receiving. And by the way, it's also a good thing for Baker because for Eric Avery, those are his first 2 receiving touchdowns of the season. That's a new target for Jules Gard to find, at least putting points on the board. And Seth Simpson, 7 of 7, point after. He also hit a 24-yard field goal. Now 48 made field goals, and he is at the top, tied at the top of the all-time list. We like supporting kickers here on the channel as well. So props to Seth Simpson for being at the top of the all-time mark there. Benedictine, 8-1, 66-7 over Missouri Valley. 9 straight have the Ravens won over the Vikings in the series. Jackson Dooley continues to put up solid numbers. 12 of 17 passing. He was pretty much done in the first half. 4 touchdown passes in that first half. Titan Osborne, 2 catches, 2 receiving touchdowns. 49 yards through the air. Back-to-back games for 2 receiving touchdowns for Osborne. That's the 4th time this season he's had 2 catches that went in for scores. William Woods at Mid-American Nazarene. The Pioneers get the win in this one. Drew Miller, 14 of 31 passing, 152 yards. Maybe not the number through the air he wanted, but he did throw 4 touchdown passes, 1 pick as well. Jonathan Brown led his team with 14 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 1 quarterback hurry to add to that and forced a fumble. And for William Woods, maybe they found a new quarterback. Dante Rhodes, he's seen a little action this season, got his first start, the junior did, against Mid-American Nazarene. 28 of 50 passing for 383 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He also had 23 carries for 60 yards. So Rhodes getting his number called all day for William Woods. They come up just a bit short to Mid-American Nazarene. To the G-Pack where we stop for just a moment. And I take a drink of some water here. The voice is holding out. And Tool Envy and Charles, I see you guys talking over there on the side. Not able to slow down as much right now, but I appreciate the conversation in the chat. Please step in, be a part of the chat tonight. And we welcome you into the community here on Midwest Sportsnet and encourage you to just support your team. Let us know from where you're watching tonight and who you are supporting in the NAIA this season. And I would also encourage you that if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. It is free, and we would love for you to be a part of the community as well. We have a goal we're trying to get to before the end of the year. So not only subscribe, but tell somebody that you know. Tell a friend, tell a family member, and just be a part of it here on Midwest Sportsnet. College football this week continuing here as we go to the G-Pack, where Dordt continues to win. 8-0 now, 31-26, maybe a little bit closer than Defender fans wanted it to be. Hastings had the ball and was driving late, but Dordt comes away with an interception to seal it. And the way I read that was that went through a receiver's hands and into the defender's hands to get that done. Noah Strickfaden and Colton Cruz split time at quarterback again this week. Isaac Looker able to get 4 catches for 111 yards and a receiving touchdown for the Defenders. And for Hastings, a solid day for Jared Sinek. 26 of 41 passing, 280 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, but threw 2 interceptions as well, including the one that sealed it for the Defenders. Northwestern, 23-17 at Midland, the final in overtime. Northwestern has won 24 straight now in this series. That was on the line there, going to an extra session. Midland won back in 2001, the last time that the Warriors have won there. Colby Duncan to Carson Ness, 6 yards out in overtime. That proved to be the game winner, as Duncan was 20 of 33 passing, 191 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns thrown as well. Midland, and this is one of those numbers. You look back at this stat. How about this one? 2 of 16 on third down. The Northwestern defense continuing to step up. Morningside, 42. Doane, nothing. Morningside's won 10 straight in the series. Zach Chevalier and Sam Hartman, they had comparable days, except that they didn't. Zach Chevalier, 20 of 31 passing, 253 yards. Sam Hartman, 21 of 39 passing, 208 yards. Here's the difference. Chevalier threw 4 touchdowns and no picks. Hartman threw no touchdowns and 2 picks. It's going to make the difference all day long. For Morningside, Dave, I know that you're watching, but there were new names that we're seeing touchdown passes thrown to them, and I'm sure that's part of one of those things that Coach Ryan looks at and says, hey, we may have a favorable matchup in this game. We're going to get some new receivers out there. New names with 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. Kyle Sisler's 4th touchdown of the season. Griffin Kraft's 3rd touchdown of the season. Keelan Jacobson's second touchdown of the season, and Reese Spieler's first touchdown of the season. So new names getting the ball there for Morningside. Chevalier with 4 touchdowns thrown on the day. Concordia, Robert's happy about this one. The Bulldogs double up the Chargers 34-17. Concordia is now 20-3 all-time in the series and has won 7 straight. 4 players with at least 1 rushing touchdown. Calvin Sassaman, 29 for 152 yards on the day, and there we go. Brock Saya, by the way, for Briar Cliff, 1 passing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown, too. And Dave says that, let me go ahead and put that one up there. So, Dave, Kraft is the real deal at tight end. Well, that's a solid thing, and you know that the Mustangs want and need someone like that, and hopefully able to step up as the playoffs come around. We'll talk about Morningside's chances for that a little bit later on. They are pretty good. Dave, Concordia finally finished a game. Yeah, and they did, and they doubled things up and got business taken care of. Robert, by the way, I went back, Robert, just and I, we don't do a whole lot of inside jokes here, but I did go back and look at the comment again for getting starting at quarterback. So I caught it. I got the humor. I was a little late. Sorry about that. We'll go on from there. Okay. Continuing the GPAC, Dakota Wesleyan with the big win over Mount Marty, 44-41 in overtime. Mount Marty outscored Dakota Wesleyan 21-7 in the fourth quarter just to send it to overtime. And then the Tigers force a Mount Marty field goal and got a 25-yard pass from Connor Drake to Stephen Christian for the win. Connor Drake on the day, 26 of 39 passing, 402 yards through 4 touchdowns and an interception. Stephen Christian with that game-winning touchdown reception, 6 catches, 129 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. And Moshe Richmond, 12 catches, 180 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns for Richmond on the day. There we go. All right, so let's move on to the KCAC, where Evangel gets another win and continues to roll through the Kessinger division in the KCAC. 7-2 now in the year, 4-0 all time in the series with Tabor, 27-14 victory. And for Evangel, the last 2 games are at home. As Reed Potts, 22 of 31 passing, 258 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions on the day for the Valor. Things in good shape for Evangel to continue the season into the second season, the postseason. Bethel, 35, Avila, 25. Houston Heron, he's a freshman, another quarterback from the state of Oklahoma. He's a freshman from Apache. That's in Class A. That is the smallest 11-man class in the state of Oklahoma. And what a day he had. 22 of 28 passing, 340 yards, 78.6 completion, 5 touchdowns, threw a couple of picks as well. Bethel gets the win behind Houston Heron. Ottawa, 37, Bethany, 6. Jaden Johnson, 8 catches for 100 yards even for the Braves. One of those a receiving touchdown. Big games in the Bissell. McPherson, 53, Southwestern, 40. This was one of those, I was considering to put this in the Bet the Barn segment and going on the over-under. Definitely, I would not have put enough numbers on this one. 103 points scored. Jaleel Brown, 42 carries for McPherson, 274 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Now, there is no question that McPherson can throw the ball. Coach Fiskus with the game plan to just put it in Brown's hands and shorten this game. Shorten the game, 93 points on the board. But Brown had it 45 times, and he picked up 274 yards. And again, 3 rushing touchdowns there. Joe Smythe, 2 kickoff returns, touchdowns, 86 yards and 93 yards. He puts points on the board for Southwestern. He also had 7 carries for 46 yards and a rushing touchdown. He also had 5 catches for 31 yards and a receiving touchdown. Smythe threw a pass, too. What a stat line. Absolutely huge stat line there. St. Mary with a 34-27 victory over Sterling. In this one, the Spires go to 3 wins on the season. And Friends, 9-0 now with a victory over Kansas Wesleyan, 63-6 at Equity Bank Park. I'll slow down just a little bit on this one. This was a game that, a place that I'd wanted to go to for more than a year. And a game I wanted to go to once I saw it on the calendar, and we are looking to get out to a few more of these as the seasons go on. We're going to be definitely in Fort Worth for the national championship game. And in the month of November, not next weekend, but the next 2 weekends, I'll be broadcasting conference volleyball tournaments. So we'll do Midwest Sports Saturday from the site of those conference volleyball tournament championships. We'll be talking football as well, no doubt about that, on those Saturdays. But that's where we're heading in upcoming weeks. But, man, what a great site. And there was a pretty good crowd on hand. I know the folks from Salina came down, just an hour and a half drive down to Wichita, and the Friends fan base was out. The only thing I missed out on, and I was a little bit disappointed about this. So I know I already talked with Dr. Ramsire about this and a couple more. I was disappointed in that I didn't get to be a part of the tailgate. That's something I've wanted to do at a Friends game. And we've done Midwest Sports Saturday, I think 3 times, maybe 4 times from Wichita. I'll have to go back and check the records on that. And just missed out on tailgating. So this was part of something to get to do. And the tailgate moved indoors to one of the local restaurants. So we didn't get to be a part of the outdoor tailgating on that one, but still had a great time. Got to visit with Coach McClintock, men's basketball coach, and, of course, Levi Converse, who is one of the most excellent, fantastic SIDs in NAI. So that was a real privilege, and getting to talk with the coaching staff from Friends. Actually got to meet Cavante Baker. So that was pretty cool, just getting to see that too. And what a great day he had. How about Cavante Baker's numbers? 11 carries, 118 yards on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns. He also threw the ball 2 times for 111 yards. Both were touchdown passes. And I was so frustrated because did not expect to have those touchdown passes thrown, and put the phone down for just a second to talk to folks on the sideline. And just like that, Baker's throwing, 50-plus yard touchdown passes. Not once, but twice. So I didn't get either one of those on the camera, but a little bit frustrated about that. But not Baker's performance. 5 touchdowns responsible for on the day. All right. Shout out to a local quarterback here in the Durant area. So shout out to Colton Howard. I know that the Savage Storm came up just 1 point short on homecoming. We're good to see you in there as well. All right, Robert, let me throw this one here really quickly. My wife, let me see this. My wife can't catch my humor after 22 years. It ain't for everybody. That is all right. So let's say here. Let me see here. Say Concordia wins out. And that's one of those things. Tough. Dordt beats Morningside. What's the play out on that scenario? Okay, let me hold that thought for just a second because I want to get back to it. And we'll get to that on those who are controlling their own destiny in that. And how about this? Oh, my goodness, Charles. I have to put this one on here. Life's incredible. I just got to witness my granddaughter's first steps. All right, absolute shout out to Charles and getting to see that. That is incredibly cool. What a blessing. Man, I'm glad we got to document that right here on college football this week here on Midwest Sportsnet. That is so incredibly cool. So thanks for sharing that with us. Man, I'm glad you got to watch tonight, Charles. I'm glad you don't have to go back till in the morning. You got to stick around there in Kansas City and see that done. So that is incredibly cool. Praise God. That's neat. Thanks for sharing that. Robert, shout out there. It's way cool as well. Hey, we still have a few more football games to get to and a couple more conferences, but I do want to go back to Robert's statement in just a moment. Let's get to that as we go through the Sooner Athletic Conference. Texas Wesleyan has now won 5 straight in its series with Oklahoma Panhandle State, a 46-12 win. The Rams are now 7-2 on the year. Texas Wesleyan scored on the first 8 possessions in Goodwill. Now, granted, 5 of them were field goals, but they still scored on the first 8 possessions there in Goodwill. Freddie Hoya, now he got the Special Teams Player of the Week a couple of weeks ago in the Sooner Athletic Conference. He could get one here. 19 points, 5 for 5 field goals, and he went 4 for 4 with point after, or the extra points, point after attempts. 19 points for Hoya, but there were 6 field goals in this game for Texas Wesleyan. Hoya kicked only 5. They brought out Max Luna, who is responsible for the kickoffs in this. He puts up a 48-yarder and gets it up and in. The Rams with, again, a 34-point victory over the Aggies in this one. Tony Roberson, 20 carries, 84 yards for Texas Wesleyan. A pair of rushing touchdowns, had 5 catches as well. Wayland Baptist, the Pioneers. You've heard it here on the channel. You're going to continue to hear it here. Congratulations, Coach Hnatyshyn's team. He started off the year 0-2, and the Pioneers have won 6 straight since that point. Now, unfortunately for Wayland Baptist, both those 2 losses were conference losses, so that is tough. It puts them in a rough position to try to get into the playoffs, but what a season, and you're looking now at a winning record for this season. Locked in the winning record with the win, 45-27 over Nelson. The Lions are now 1-9. The 6-game winning streak, by the way, ties the longest in history. You go back to 2018 when they put up 6 in a row. Then Wayland Baptist was down 21-6, then scored 39 straight points. There's a difference in straight and unanswered. In this case, it was 39 straight because Nelson did answer 7 later on in the game. Kalen Davis, the freshman from Denton, 23 of 32 passing, 289 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns and a pick, career highs in completions, attempts, and yards, and tied in touchdown passes. He's thrown 3 a couple more times this year. Wayland Baptist is on the road in Fort Worth next week. Man, if there were a way I could get away from that one, but I just can't do it. We're going to be at home next week, but that's all right. We're going to enjoy it, but it's that one's a big one in Fort Worth, actually in Crowley next week. Be watching for that one. We'll talk about it on Thursday night. OUAZ undefeated still, 7-0 now with a 48-0 blanking of Arkansas Baptist. Luke Jerome, 13 of 22 passing, 263 yards, 3 touchdowns, pretty much took care of business and went and had a seat. Matthew Hicks had 2 catches. Both of them were for touchdowns, 81 yards combined. To the Frontier Conference, College of Idaho, undefeated in Frontier West play, 7-1 on the year with a 28-7 victory over Arizona Christian. The Yotes got 320 rushing yards on the day. Caden Young had 91 of them on 16 carries. Riley Byington had 11 carries himself, 80 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. College of Idaho, Montana Tech, 42-13, and dominating the Frontier East, 9-0 on the year, and really put Rocky Mountain out of contention, or at least it's going to be a tough way to get into the playoffs now for the Battling Bears. The Montana Tech or Diggers, and wherever Henchman is at this one, shout out to Henchman21. He's asking for more competition. Be careful what you wish for, Henchman21. Jarrett Wilson, 16 of 21 passing, 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 9 carries, and a couple of rushing touchdowns too. Waukese Johnson, 20 carries, 86 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. And can you make it through a Montana Tech highlight or recap without mentioning Levi Torgerson? I'm not sure we have this year. 9 catches, 143 yards through the air, and 1 receiving touchdown. Dickinson State stops the slide. It was all the way up to 6. That was the most for any Dickinson State team. A losing streak in a regular season. You have to go back to 1977, I think was what we talked about there. Well, the losing streak is no more for the Blue Hawks. And now Coach Stanton has his 98th victory as the head coach. 37-20 over MSU Northern. Second win over the Lights this season. Dickinson State trailed 14-9 and then scored 28 straight after that. This is where you go back and look at this. For Dickinson State, and I believe that Sanders did get the start. Marcus Sanders, I think, did get the start. First 17 plays of this game were all rushing. Every single one of them, including a possession in which the Blue Hawks had the ball 10 times, did not score, turned it over on downs as they got into MSU Northern territory, got close, couldn't punch it through. 10 consecutive rushing plays, 17 straight rushing plays to start the game. And then Jace Freeze comes in, and his first play, he throws it for the 18th play, 38 yards through the air. And then after that, a 28-yard touchdown pass. Dickinson State goes up 9-0 at that point after getting a safety. Again, trailed 14-9, then rattled off 28 straight points. The Blue Hawks are now 3-6 on the year, and they have stopped the 6-game slide. Montana Western got good play from Michael Palandri in this one, 56-14 over Eastern Oregon. The Bulldogs have won 6 straight in the series, and they scored the first 56 points of the game. They were up 56-0 after the third quarter. Palandri was not needed much more after that. 22 of 30 passing. How about this? 2 passing touchdowns, 11 carries, 66 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns as well. I mentioned that because he's not going to be on the graphic for top 5 performances. We ran out of room, but he definitely needed to be mentioned in that. Carroll, 41. Southern Oregon, 40. And I want to go to Conlon Burke on this one. And I may have to read some of this directly off of his recap. But what a game. And if you wound up in Ashland, Oregon, and you're going, you know what, I'm not going to show up to the last 5 minutes of the game. I wonder if that's enough. Absolutely it is. And likely, very likely, and I don't know where it is, what it's like at your college football stadium. But, we're talking about Division II and NAI so much here on this channel. That's basically what we talk about overall. At Southeastern games, if it's the fourth quarter, you could probably get in free. Don't tell anyone I said that. But, I mean, the chances are you're going to be able to just walk in and watch the fourth quarter. If you did that in Ashland, Oregon, you got there for the best part of the game. The last 4 minutes of the game, absolutely incredible. In the fourth quarter, Southern Oregon goes up 34-27. Dom Montiel, who had a great game, pass to Brandon Barthel, 14 yards out, and Southern Oregon goes up 34-27. But wait, there's more. Carroll's not done. That was with 4 minutes and 19 seconds left in the game. You think Carroll's in trouble, and they probably are, but they move down the field, take 2 minutes off the clock. Ultimately, it was Caden Hewitt to Gavin Vandenaker, and this one from 4 yards out. Vandenaker had 2 catches on the day. This was one of them. This one looked like it would tie the game up, except that it didn't, because Southern Oregon breaks through, blocks the extra point attempt. Now it's 34-33. Wow. Carroll's still in trouble, aren't they? Yeah, could be. Maybe there's more. Let's go back. Carroll decides, and Coach Purcell, props to him on this one. And I'd love to say I saw it. I was following along, didn't actually get to see it, following along, and he goes for the onside kick. Was this by design to let them have an opportunity and try to get something back again? Well, it was a kickoff return, and Trevor Jaska takes the onside kick, bursts through, and he scores from 46 yards out. Southern Oregon looks like they're going to go up 8. But wait, they don't, because the extra point attempt is missed. It's still a 7-point game. But it's a 7-point game with 1 minute, 48 seconds on the clock. Carroll gets one more opportunity. Push it down. They don't need 148. As a matter of fact, they took only 43 seconds off the clock. Caden Hewitt to Carson Ochoa, 14 yards out. And you know what? Coach Purcell's not looking to tie this thing up. He's looking to go ahead and go for the win. It's what I always heard when I was coaching. You go for the win on the road. You go for the tie at home. Go for the win on the road. And on the road, he goes for the win. 2-point conversion, and that was Gavin Vandenaker's second catch of the day. Completes it 41-40. Carroll escapes Ashland with the victory, and the Saints are undefeated in divisional play. How about that? Absolutely cool. I wanted to read more of this. You should read more about it. Conlon Burke, great SID there for Carroll, comes away with this. But one of the big stats here, also for Carroll, you have to be looking, if you're a Saints fan and you're familiar with this series, it's just been played 20 times. Now, Carroll is a historically good program and obviously had a huge dynasty in the 21st century with 6 national championships. But these two teams have played only 20 times. And in that, in recent years, 2021, Southern Oregon comes back, score with 37 seconds left, and they get the win. And I had those numbers up here. They get the win 34-30. Then in 2019, Southern Oregon scores with 44 seconds left, and this is in Ashland. They get the win 29-28. Another 1-point victory for Southern Oregon. Go back to 2015, a 2-point attempt by Carroll in overtime, knocked away, and Southern Oregon gets the win 28-27. That one in Helena. And you have to be thinking, they're going for 2 again this late in the game. Are the Saints, are they going to lose by 1 again? No, they don't. They get the 1-point victory. Carroll now 7-1 on the year. Carson Ochoa, the other big receiver in this one, 7 catches, 108 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. Gavin Vandenaker, again, those 2 catches, both of them huge. And Caden Hewitt, 18 for 31 passing, 261 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Very important here, no interceptions on the day. Man, That was absolutely huge. And finally, Matt, we're going to get to this game. Dakota State 44, Mayville State 14. The Trojans are 6-2 now on the year. And Matt was saying maybe Joey was right about Dakota State. Just had a feeling this year. Coach Anderson's squad looking good. I think it's been a while since they've seen these kind of numbers from Trey Heddick. How about this? 16 for 25 passing, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns thrown, no picks in this one. Dakota State started off 17-0 in this game, built up the lead. Mayville State didn't get to 17 points on the game. 255 rushing yards, though, the Comets had. No passing yards. A couple of quarterbacks or a couple of passers. I'm not going to say quarterbacks, but passers. I think it was quarterbacks. 0 for 4 on the day, no passing yards. Edward Norton. Now, this is a good sign, I would think, Matt. The seniors had only carries only in the last 2 games. Edward Norton had 22 carries in this one. He's had 30 rushes on the season, 22 of them this one, 103 rushing yards, and the 2 rushing touchdowns. So maybe, just maybe, they found somebody, although, again, listed as senior. It's tough to say what that means anymore. It really is. It's just one of those things that it's tough to find out. Anyway, 13 players carried the ball at least one time for Mayville State. And the Comets, even though it's always a great day to be a Comet, Comets did come up short in this one by 30. And I'll just sit in the corner and keep quiet. It's okay. It's all right. There's still 2 more weeks of the season. Enjoy it. Did Dakota State make the playoffs last year? No. That's one of the reasons, Tuolimbi, that I think they could make some noise. Now, there's a lot that would have to happen for them to make the playoffs this year. Just an incredible sequence of events. Let's just put it this way. Dakota State is not in control of its own destiny. But my take on it was that they would, cause disruption in the Frontier East. And I think that they have caused some disruption in the Frontier East. And I think it looks good for the future. And again, Matt, I don't know what, people who are listed as seniors anymore, it's just tough to say. Do they have another year? Do they not have another year? The COVID year, thankfully, I think is gone by the wayside, so we don't have to talk about that anymore. But we go back to something we talked about in the summer, Division II. Here in a couple months, Division II is going to be voting on 5 years of eligibility. I will tell you with a certainty that the NAI and Division I and probably Division III have already put things in the works that if this passes, they're going to try to make something like that pass too. Will it have an effect? Then will all these other players be grandfathered in, from this year to that if it happens? So a lot to talk about. We're going to let's do a programming note too, as that was the final football game that was on Saturday slate. Let's take a short programming note to say that we're going to continue with the live streams beyond the regular season and postseason this year. We're going to keep going at least once a week with college football this week for a lot of time in the offseason. So I hope you stick around for that. Obviously, here on the channel, Midwest Sports Net, we're going to cover basketball. We're going to cover baseball and softball and the spring sports as well. Some dance and cheer competition. That's right. Dance and cheer competition right here on the channel. I know, but you're dealing with a dance dad. So we're going to talk about those things as well. But anyway, we'll keep up with college football this week. Man, Charles, I'm going to put that up there again. Life is incredible, and Charles is blessed beyond belief. How cool is that? That is so neat. All right, let's go to the graphic then. We did have top 5 performers. Wow, past the 1 hour mark, and we're getting to our top 5 performers. It's been a good night. Shout out to Owen Hnatyshyn for being on the broadcast tonight, and the Indiana Wesleyan, one of the voices of the Indiana Wesleyan Wildcats, and Wildcats are doing well. Let's look then at our top 5 performers and bring that up here. Here we go. Top 5 performers. Let's talk about them really quickly. Man, good day for Joe Smythe. What a stat line. What a stat line. That's not the top 5 performers for this week. You have a top 5 performers this week? Let's take that down for a second. That was last week. Hang on. I've got this, I promise. I would say trained professional. Yeah, I actually am a trained professional. Really, I am. Let's see if we can bring that one up there. Here we go. Let's do this instead. There we go. Joe Smythe, Southwestern's Joe Smythe. Again, stat line for him, it was just all over the board. 2 kickoffs returned for touchdown. He actually returned 5 kickoffs on the day, but 2 of them for touchdowns, 86 and 93 yards, 7 carries, 46 yards, and a rushing touchdown, 5 catches, 31 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Responsible for 4 touchdowns on the day. He threw a pass as well. St. Xavier's Dominic D'Ambrosio, 15 or 30 passing, 286 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and ran in for a score as well. Cavante Baker, 5 touchdowns, responsible for on the day, 11 carries for 118 yards on the ground, threw 2 passes. Both of them were for touchdowns of 50-plus yards. Man, what a day. And let's see here as we move on along. Who we have there? We have Carroll as well. How about the numbers from Carroll? Gavin Vandenaker, 2 catches, both of them huge, 1 for a touchdown at the end, 1 for a 2-point conversion. Carson Ochoa, 7 catches, 4 receiving touchdowns for Ochoa, and Caden Hewitt threw 5 on the day. No picks for Hewitt. Wow, what an incredible day for him. And then finally, Xavier Malone. Now, technically, he's responsible for 7 touchdowns. Threw 6 passing touchdowns, had 1 rushing touchdown, but he also threw a pick 6. So realistically, he was responsible for 8 touchdowns on the day, just 7 of them for his team. But what a day for Xavier Malone, 437 passing yards on the day. And that's going to take us then to our final segment of the night. Let's go ahead and put a different graphic up there. How about the Bet the Barn segment? We have a couple of winners in our Bet the Barn segment, and they are Jeff and Matt. Both of them got 3 out of 4 right last week. So shout out, Matt. You don't have to sit in the corner and be quiet anymore. You can celebrate this one. There we go. Bet the Barn segment here. Let's talk about them really, really quickly as we look at that and celebrate Jeff and Matt. Here we go then. The first one, the over-under on the Concordia game. The over-under was 63.5 points. If you took the under, you got it right. It was a 34-17 game. And, Robert, you get the win on that one, just 51 points on the day. Not that much right there. Xavier Malone, he was part of our one of the prop bets that we had right here. Xavier Malone, would he get at least his average of 367.7 yards per game? And that was important to me because, hey, listen, I picked Pikeville. I needed him to get that. I definitely took the over on that. I think that may have been the only one I got right. 437 yards passing on the day. Definitely get the over on that. How's another prop bet here? Morningside's defense. Would they get at least 1 defensive score? And the answer to that is no. They did not get a defensive score. However, Morningside's defense, they do a good job against Stone. Also, 2 interceptions and forced 2 fumbles. So, you have 4 opportunities there to make something happen. They did not, however, get the defensive score. So you had to take the under on that one. And then if you took the under in Indiana Wesleyan at Taylor, which I did, what in the world was I thinking on that one? 71.5 points. That's the over-under. Man, I mean, I wasn't going to put a high number on that one, like too high. I thought 71.5 was probably, oh my goodness. 104 points scored between the 2 of them. Indiana Wesleyan gets the win in that one. Big win. All right. I said this was the final segment. That's wrong. There's one more segment we have to look at. Let's see here. Get that cough drop through. Yeah, we have to look at one more segment here. Let's talk about automatic qualifiers. If you have just a little bit more time tonight, guys, you have just a little bit more time. I know we're at the hour 9 mark. Just a little bit more time. Automatic qualifiers. Let's get rid of the Bet the Barn graphic there while we're at it here. There's nobody betting the barn on this one right now. Okay, these are teams who are in control of their own destiny. So we're talking about teams that are in control of their own destiny. They're definitely in the driver's seat. If these teams win out, they will get the automatic bid. So let's look at it here then really quickly. If these teams win out, they're going to get the automatic bid. Reinhardt is in control. Reinhardt. I don't know if I have the official pronunciation of that one. I'll find out. The Eagles are in control of their own destiny. They're 4-0 in conference play. If they win out, they will get the automatic bid. Pikeville is also in control of its destiny, because if the Bears win out, the Bears will get the automatic bid, because they'll have the win head-to-head over Reinhardt. And the way it's set up and the way the schedule is at this point in time, now Pikeville has a tough game next week against Kentucky Christian, and the Bears can't look past that. But you get the win against Kentucky Christian. Reinhardt gets a win next week. Pikeville, with a victory, gets the automatic qualifying bid. So, and would do it with a record of 5-5 once again, just like last year. So that's a tough one. So these are two teams, again, that are in control of their own destiny. If they win out, they get the AQ. All right, let's move along. Frontier West, Carroll and College of Idaho, both in control of their own destiny. Win out, you get the automatic bid. Carroll and College of Idaho play next Saturday. We'll talk about that more on Thursday night, but both of them in control of their own destiny at this point in time. All you have to do is keep winning. Same thing for Montana Tech. I know the Ore Diggers are 9-0. I know we could talk about an at-large bid. We're not talking about that tonight. Just the AQ, and the Ore Diggers are in control of their own destiny right there. Great Plains, Dort, 8-0. Morningside, 7-1. Now, Robert, to your point, I do want to mention Concordia, but I really want to hit this on Thursday night, but because it would take a confluence of events. It would definitely do that. Dort 8-0, in control of its own destiny if they win out. Morningside, if the Mustangs win out, doesn't matter what anybody else does, because it's Morningside and Dort in that season finale. So both of those teams are in control of their own destiny to get a playoff bid. All you have to do is keep winning, and nobody can take it away from you. To the Heart, Grandview 4-0. Culver Stockton at 3-1, also in control because Culver Stockton hasn't yet played the Vikings. And so Grandview wins out, gets the automatic bid. Culver Stockton, if the Wildcats win out and they beat Grandview, they'll have the head-to-head matchup there and would get the automatic bid from the North. The South, as usual, is not as clear-cut. So let's talk about the South for a moment. If Baker wins out, all Baker has to do, by the way, at this point in time, is beat Benedictine, because the final game is not a divisional game. Baker has a 5-0 record. You got 6 teams you play in divisional play right there. And so Baker, all they have to do right now is beat Benedictine. I know that was a crazy statement. Well, all they have to do is beat Benedictine. Yeah, that's a tall order. But Baker has won now 5 consecutive games. So this is a big deal. They got their wins at the right time. If you're going to lose 3 games, lose them at the start of the season before divisional play starts, because Baker has won 5 straight. All of them have been in division, and all they have to do is beat Benedictine. And at that point in time, you not only win the division, but you win it outright, and you get the automatic bid. Benedictine, now if the Ravens win straight through, also in control of their own destiny, because it would be the tiebreaker would be between Benedictine and Baker. However, if Benedictine beats Baker next week but loses to Mid-American Nazarene, then it becomes a 3-way tie. And Corey Thorpe from NAIF Ball put the Hart tiebreaker rules, which are fantastic and a long read, in the Discord today. And I would submit to you, and I won't go through all of them, I would submit to you that Benedictine would likely still win the tiebreaker rule if all 3 of these teams were tied with 1 loss apiece, which, by the way, has happened before. Now, here's one thing I would say about that, too. Thank God that the Hart changed that up a little bit, and no longer are the coaches' rankings, not ratings, no longer are the coaches' rankings a part of that at all. It would be about what goes on within the conference. All of it has to do with just the Hart Conference itself. Now, it does go to coaches and voting and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot. There is a lot to get through to that. But I would submit to you, Benedictine would very likely have the tiebreaker if that were a case. But I can't say that Benedictine is now in total control of its own destiny because it has the one loss already. So there we go. All right. Oh, no, it doesn't have the one loss, but it could have the one loss if the way the schedule works out, it could have the one loss with Mid-American Nazarene. That's it. So it's not in total control of its own destiny. Baker's in total control of its own destiny. Benedictine, if it wins out, is in total control of its own destiny, but still could win against Baker and lose to Mid-American Nazarene. Then it's not anymore. Mid-American Nazarene just needs all kinds of things to happen. And I would dare say, even if it were a three-way tie, Mid-American Nazarene would not get the tiebreaker at all. I just want to throw it out there just because there's a possibility. Let's answer Tool NB's question really quickly. Did William Penn beat Culver Stockton? Wouldn't that put William Penn in play? Yes and no. Here's the issue with that one. It would to an extent, except that Grandview beat William Penn. So now you have a three-way tie. So William Penn, according to what we're talking about now, is still not in control of its own destiny. And that goes into the three-way thing right there. I would say at this point, still in total control of its own destiny are Grandview and Culver Stockton because they haven't played one another yet. So that's what we wanted to talk about here. I probably shouldn't have thrown Mid-American Nazarene in there. I think the only reason I threw Mid-American Nazarene in there, Tool NB, is this. We've seen a three-way tie between these three schools twice now in like the last 3 years. And so I just, it could happen. It so could happen. And Mid-American Nazarenes beat Benedictine the last two season finales, I think. So it could so happen. William Penn is under Coach Benavidez. Under Coach Benavidez, they're in uncharted waters right now. So this is new. This is beyond what they've done before. And shout out, by the way, to the Statesmen. Man, they have been looking good. I always felt like that was a good hire. Coach Benavidez did such a great job at Avila, and he's a good guy too. So I'm really excited about the Statesmen looking good, but that's why this here. Anyway, okay, I see you, Tulindy. So there we go. Hey, Roger. Good to see your name coming up tonight. Love the math on this. Thanks for letting me do a little math. All right, let's go back. We're going to wrap up this segment. Where are we? Let's get back to it. Nope, that's not it. There we are. Okay. Heart North, Heart South. The Bissell Friends in control of its own destiny. No question there. And by the way, Friends has already run the gauntlet in their division because they beat McPherson, they beat Southwestern, they beat Kansas Wesleyan. But don't want to take away from St. Mary and Sterling. But Friends definitely has favorable matchups in both of those games. Evangel, same thing. And both of their last two games are at home. And Evangel in the last 3 years now has not lost to any of the teams in their division. So that's where we are on that one. All right, let's move on. Marion, in control of its own destiny in the Midwest. Win out, the Knights get the playoff spot. Automatic bid in the playoff spot. They have only one loss, but I'm talking about automatic bid right now. Same thing for Indiana Wesleyan and Siena Heights. So both teams win on Saturday. I mean, this is a huge matchup at Siena Heights. A home game to not only make it to the postseason, but extend the life of the program because this is the final season there for the Saints. So much on the line. And so it's both those teams, though, still in control of their own destiny. Taylor's likely out at this point, but definitely not in control of its own destiny anymore. To the Mid-South, and this was a mess last week. And it's still a mess. And when I made this graphic, I want to change things a little. Let me make that a little bit bigger so you can see really quickly. I should have had Campbellsville and the gap between Campbellsville and Lindsey Wilson. Bethel's in control of its own destiny, and here's why. Definitely in control because even though it has 3 wins and 1 loss, its next 2 games are against Campbellsville and Lindsey Wilson. So if the Wildcats win both of those, they'll give each one of them 2 losses. They'll have only 1 loss. The Wildcats are totally in control of their own destiny at this point. Campbellsville is still in control of its own destiny because if it wins out, it would play Bethel at least once, and I don't recall who the other game is. However, if it were it's already played Lindsey Wilson. So if Campbellsville wins out and has only one loss, and Lindsey Wilson wins out and has only one loss, Campbellsville would have the head-to-head matchup against Lindsey Wilson, and so the Tigers are still in control of their own destiny as well. So Bethel and Campbellsville, all they have to do is win out. They get the AQ from the Mid-South. Lindsey Wilson could win out but still possibly need help, and so they're not quite in control of their own destiny. There you go. All right. Still a bit of a mess there because nobody has no losses in conference play. Let's move on to the Sooner. OUAZ and Texas Wesleyan likely going to come down to that matchup at the end of the season. Louisiana Christian could throw a monkey wrench in all of that, but it's likely going to come down to that game. OUAZ and Texas Wesleyan are both in control of their own destiny. All they have to do is win out. They get the AQ, period. And finally, Kaiser and Southeastern both are in control of their own destiny. Now, there are other teams in the conference that you might say, hey, Joey, this is a team that just has one loss in the conference, but that loss was to Kaiser. So if it came down to it and Kaiser got a loss, they would still have the head-to-head against that other team. Kaiser wins out, you get the automatic bid. Southeastern wins out, you get the automatic bid. Why? They already have a loss, but they haven't played Kaiser yet, and that would mean that you have the head-to-head matchup against Kaiser. So both of those teams still in control of their own destiny. The Seahawks, however, at 5-0, it looks a lot better. All right. Let's go back to the comment section here really quickly, and we'll wrap things up with there. All right. Friends. Yeah, Friends is going to make a deep run in the playoffs. I agree. And having watched them up close and personal, and look, let's give some commentary. Let's go ahead and take that down. Let's give some commentary on Friends really quickly. They got some dudes. I love that word, and I heard it used, and I hadn't used it in a while. I heard it used some on Saturday, and coaches are right. They have some dudes. But you know what the other thing is? I mean, they have some players that you look at it, and you're not going, man, this is the biggest, hugest person I've ever seen in my life. He is this. I'm not looking going, these guys are just absolutely humongous. They're just good, and they run what they're supposed to run, and they do it very, very, very well. So, yeah, I mean, it was impressive, to say the least. And don't forget, one other thing, that Friends defense is very good too. Absolutely. So you talk all you want to about the offense, and I will, but the defense is very good too. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. All right, Charles, Friends controls the turnovers, run like they have all season, and the defense stands up. And I think that defense is going to stand up. Really do. So there you go. It's the biggest word in the dictionary. If is the biggest word in the dictionary. That's valid. Absolutely valid. I got that out of the corner of my eye, and I read that, and I was like, what is the big... If is the biggest word in the dictionary. Good job, Charles. Okay, even though football has changed a lot over the years, one thing has never changed. Don't turn the ball over and run the ball. You're going to be hard to beat. And that, that was really the thing for Friends the last couple of years. The first year that they played Evangel, and it went up against Evangel, and I think that game, I really believe the game with Evangel 2 years is what kept the Falcons out of the playoffs. And they went to Nixa and turned the ball over, like 7 times turned the ball over. And since that time, they've been controlling the ball better. And I haven't said it yet on the show tonight, so let me just go ahead and say it. The Terry Harrison factor is a real thing, and I got to see that up close and personal again. So that was cool. All right, everybody, it's been a fun night. We're closing in on an hour and a half. Charles, what a great night for you. My goodness, sir. What a great night for you. And a shout out to you and to your family. That is so cool. Safe trip tomorrow when you leave and head back to Florida tomorrow. Safe trip to you. To everybody else for watching tonight, Dave, thanks for being on. Robert, thank you for being on. Tool Envy, thank you for being on. Leo, good to see your name coming up there as well. Roger, good to see you tonight. Matt, sitting in the corner and being quiet, but Matt, man, you won. So how about that? Let's give the woot woot there for Matt. In all of that, Colton, thanks for stopping by tonight. Colton, really appreciate seeing your name come up there as well. And I think, did we get everybody in on the chat tonight? Going back up to the top? Yeah, I think so as well. All right, Tool Envy, thank you very much. Charles, God bless you, man. Thank you. God bless all of you guys tonight. Robert, what a privilege to get to meet you face to face today as well, and your family, and see your church and all that. That was really cool. Guys, we have to do a meetup sometime, looking for 2026, and some of you may go down to the national championship here as well in 2025. We'll see about that, but a lot in store. So Thursday, we're going to look a little bit at some at-large opportunities. We'll talk about a few of those, including Concordia and more on Thursday night. We'll run through the Week 11 slate. And there is so much to talk about there. Some big matchups with AQs on the line in that one. And we'll find out what we should be betting the barn about, as Jeff and Matt are our winners. Jeff and Matt are our winners for this week. So, all right. I think we got everything tonight. Did we get everything tonight? Listen, if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Feel free to join and become a member as well. We have some members-only content that we throw out every now and again. We're trying to get a little bit more on that, so we appreciate you being a part of it. And you know what? Maybe you know a friend that needs to subscribe to this channel. You may know that friend. Our goal is 5,000 by the end of the year. I know that's a big number, but that's still the goal, so we're still shooting for it. So we're felt like that was the thing to pray about, so that's where I went on that one. All right. I think we have everybody. Man, you guys are awesome. And I am about to go see Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet. I'm going to walk up the stairs, and she's going to say, how did it go? And I'm going to say, this is the coolest community on the internet. You guys are awesome. And I'm going to tell her about Charles's granddaughter, too. And it's just going to be incredibly cool tonight. So good night here. Have a great start to your week. Have a good week as well. Hope to see everybody on Thursday nights. Man, it would be really cool if we had another summit along the way. Maybe we get a chance to talk to somebody between now and then. And I think that's it. So, Leo, good week, man. Have a great week. God bless you all. And I will see you all for sure on Thursday.